Hey folks, welcome back to another brand new episode of CPOV Autographs 201. First episode after our 200th special. Thanks again for all the kind words and feedback on the accomplishment of doing so many episodes, the exhaustion of doing so many episodes, and the great conversation I had with my guests. To kick off this new era, I guess, which not much is really changing, we are going to continue our love for Patrick Willems and everything that man touches. My guest today is the incredible Dave Wiskus. Dave is known as Dave the Agent within the Patrick Willems series. He is also the CEO of Standard and Nebula. He's a musician, and he's also just a really funny guy. We had a great chat that went in some wild directions, asked me some questions. We got really deep on content creation and on fandoms and nerdy stuff, as well as all of his involvement with Patrick Willems and other YouTubers, Nebula, all sorts of really cool stuff. This was a really incredible conversation. I hope you enjoy listening as much as I enjoyed having it. So without any further ado, here's my incredible conversation with the one and only Dave Wiskus. I'm just very excited. I'm talking with the incredible Dave Wiskus, a.k.a. Dave the Agent, as most people know him, famously Dave the Agent. Dave, I'm so excited to be chatting with you. Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited to be here. That sounded insincere. I'm sorry. I am so excited to be here. Is that better?
There it is.
I didn't mean to sound insincere. I was just trying to be, I guess, glib. I don't know.
Glib. be the famous agent that you are.
A little aloof.
A little aloof, a little mysterious. Got to keep that aura about you. I have been a fan of you in the show, in Patrick's show, for a long time. I had the pleasure of meeting you at the live New York screening of the film, which was a delight, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. I want to start by actually talking about something that I feel like I haven't heard you talk about that much, because I see you in Patrick's videos, and that's the fact that you are the Nebula guy. Like, Nebula is your brainchild, and I would like to know, first of all, tell the audience a little bit about what Nebula is, why it's different from other streaming services, and then go into a little bit about how it came to be. Where did Nebula come from?
People who know me from the Patrick stuff, the people who know me as Dave the Agent, it's often a surprise to them to learn that I actually am Patrick's agent. That's not just a bit. That really is the thing. I run a company called Standard, and I work with a bunch of YouTubers, primarily a couple of podcasters. And it started as a side project when I was doing the professional music thing. I used to work in the tech industry ages ago, and I had a bunch of friends with tech podcasts. I had a podcast called Unprofessional, which was very specifically not a tech podcast. It was where we could talk about anything but work. And through like that doing media stuff and knowing tech people doing tech podcasts, I kind of wound up in this strange position where I was helping my friends book sponsors for their shows, mostly because they were more popular than me, and it gave me access to sponsors for my show. Right. So I could yeah, you want those guys? Well, let's sneak one of mine in there too. That's nice and cheap relative to the total price. And then the sponsors would be like, yeah, okay, fine. And
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, it was a way to leverage up. And I did this very successfully for a couple of years. People liked what was happening, and they recommended me to friends. Then I wound up working with YouTubers, and it was around the time when I was getting really into YouTube. I think 2012. I was living in Amsterdam, and somebody sent me a video. And I realized, oh my God, videos on YouTube don't just have to be about cats. That was sort of the stereotype at the time. There's a ton of informational, educational stuff out there. I kind of fell down a rabbit hole of watching all of that and fell in love with it. And when I got connected with a podcaster who was a YouTuber and started working with him on his podcast, and he introduced me to more YouTubers, for me, getting to meet everybody in that YouTube world was I'm fanboying out. These are all the people I watch on YouTube. I wanted to be like these guys. I had a YouTube channel for a little while. I thought it was a total failure. In retrospect, I look back and no, I had a banger channel if I just stuck with it. I gave it up because I'm only getting 60,000 views per video, and I'm 4 videos in. Why am I not exploding? And oh, damn it, dude. If you would just anybody comes to me now with those numbers, I'm oh yeah, this is a winner. I had no idea. I was dumb. But working with those creators, I kind of set out to do more than just book sponsors. The goal was how could we build tools that these smaller creators need? And if I were casting myself as one of those creators, which I felt I was, and I still feel I am, what tools would I want? What do I wish I had?
Right.
And along the way, we had conversations with various companies about streaming, like building streaming projects or doing licensing for the rights for certain videos. Like the thing that became Peacock, Comcast reached out because they wanted to buy licenses to a bunch of our creators' videos, and it didn't really make a ton of sense. And they wound up not following through on any of it. But we kind of felt like, well, we had been approached by, let's say it was Vimeo or so. Yeah, Vimeo, about doing a streaming video service for one creator. And that guy makes a video every 6 months. It doesn't make any sense to do a service. But it only really makes sense if it's all of the, oh shit, we should just do that. And so I went to the creators. I'm like, hey, what if we just built our own streaming service? As if that's the easiest thing in the world to do.
Right. Like, let's just do it. No problem.
Well, Vimeo had made it seem like it would be incredibly easy. So everybody got really excited about it. I'm like, oh shit, okay, let's go. And then about 10 minutes into it, realized Vimeo was not the right answer. But I had all of these excited people. Well, fortunately, I come from the tech industry, so I know a thing or two about software, and started assembling my software development Avengers, and got a minimum viable product together, got it released, and then we did this Curiosity Stream bundle deal, and the thing just exploded. None of us could have predicted how big this would get. Our goal was that someday, like in 10 years, we could get to like 100,000 subscribers. That'd be huge. The goal for the first year,
right,
optimistically, was 10,000. And here we are 3 years later, over 500,000. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. Our monthly recurring revenue is bananas and growing. Like, I don't know mentally and emotionally how to process the way this is clicked together. But what we started with was, what if we just had a streaming service we could put our videos on? And of course, well, if you're going to do a streaming service, you have to do originals, and it has to be ad-free because you're competing with the ad-supported stuff that's on YouTube. So there's your value proposition. And we can do extras. Right. We built out this concept of Nebula Plus. And now with shows like Jetlag, we've got what we're calling Nebula First, which is, it's a show that lives on YouTube, but it's a cliffhanger-driven show where the next episode is always available on Nebula a week before the public version. And so we're building out all these different ways to business model our way to creator revenue. If creators are making more money with Nebula, then Nebula makes more money. So the whole machine is, we have to come up with systems and invent tools for the creators to make more money. We just launched Nebula classes a couple months ago, and we've got a couple of crafty ideas. The premiere for Night of the Coconut was just sort of one more experiment there. Nebula is becoming less a streaming video service, and it's videos, it's podcasts, it's classes. Like, what if we had books? What if we had newsletters? What if we had music? What if we did live events? So the premiere was kind of an experiment with a live event. What could this look like? And I mean, you were there. You saw how well that went. People loved it.
It was amazing. Yeah. Oh my God, it was so
let's
cool.
do 1 million more of those. Abigail Thorne, Philosophy Tube, is doing a play. We are producing this play called The Prince in London. And I don't know if I'm allowed to share how well it's doing, but it's doing really well. It's been promoted in public exactly once. And I think it's already past break even for us. It hasn't even started yet, and we're making money on this thing. By the time,
love it.
I'll be very shocked if it's not sold out before opening night. I don't know how this show goes through its full run with an empty seat. And I don't want to overstate things, but like, holy shit, right? And so it's weird that a streaming video service would be putting on a play, but we're gonna film the thing, and it's like Hamilton style on Disney Plus, right? We're gonna have the filmed version up on Nebula. So if you think of it like we're taking creator dream projects and turning them into reality. Abby wants to build her acting career. Let's find ways to facilitate that. Patrick wants to build his filmmaking career. Let's find ways to facilitate that. So it's less about streaming video platform and more about a marketplace and an engine for creator hopes and dreams, and sort of leveraging their audience and the enthusiasm the audience has for them and their work into things above and beyond just what they would do on YouTube, churning the videos out.
That's phenomenal. I mean,
there's the short answer.
Yeah, sure, of course, totally. Not 12 minutes long, just the shortest of answers.
Sorry.
No, the more you talk, the less I have to do, so it's fine. Nobody's here for me. They're here because Dave the Agent's on. They don't care that I'm here. I'm just facilitating the incredible information.
Well, they subscribe to your show, so they're probably here for you.
I mean, yes, I would guess at this point after doing over 200 episodes.
Oh my God, is that true? Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, so the 200th hasn't aired, but by the time people hear this, you'll be 201.
So, the start of the new era.
The new era. Yeah. I mean, it's also a run of Patrick H. Willems related interviews because I interviewed him, I'm interviewing you, and then my next guest is one Brian Metolius.
Oh.
So we're doing a run of Patrick related folks.
How great was the soundtrack to Night of the Coconut?
Oh, unbelievable. I went up to Brian immediately after watching the film and went, I don't know how your music gets better, but it does. Like my brain can't actually comprehend it. And then his poor partner, Brian's like, and I can say this now because it's already been announced. Brian's like, Matt, can I show you something cool? But you can't tell anyone. I was like, okay, what's up? And Brian's partner sighs and he's like, look at this, and showed me the prototype for the vinyl. And I was like, that's so cool. And of course I kept my mouth shut, but like now it's officially announced. I have reserved my copy. I'm very excited.
Are you doing the brown vinyl or the yellow vinyl?
The yellow vinyl. The yellow just looks too sweet. I couldn't, like, it's practically a gold record.
Yeah, because it's Mondo gets the brown one. I think Nebula gets the yellow one. Is that right?
I think that's correct, but I also clicked the link and clicked purchase. I didn't think much about it beyond that.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, the music was phenomenal. The film was phenomenal. It was just, I told Patrick, this is the biggest compliment I could ever give you. It was the dumbest movie I've ever seen. And I mean that with the highest of praise. We'll come back to Nebula in a minute, but I do want to talk about your role in Patrick's shows. You've talked about in other places how you were a fan and you connected, and then as you started to work together, you also like pitched being in, and then you were a fan of Patrick and then got to be in his videos, The Dream. And now you're in a feature film that one of your favorite creators made that you're a main character in. What has that road been like?
It's fucking weird, man. I don't know if you saw, but we just released Cinema Wins did a video, Everything Great About Night of the Coconut.
Yes, I did see that. I haven't watched it yet, but I saw that it came out.
It is so good. I love it. I love it. After, it was like a day or two after the premiere, I had talked to Nando about doing an episode of Working Titles about the opening title sequence. And because we had joked, Patrick and I had joked that would be really funny. It's like, just treat it like it's a real movie. I mean, it's a real movie, like, treat it like it's a thing.
Yeah.
And of course, Nando was like, oh, I'd love to do that. And so we got him the video file and he did it and he played it totally straight. It was great. What I didn't tell Patrick is that I had also reached out to Lee about doing a Cinema Wins video because I wasn't sure. I mean, that's a bit of a heavier lift.
Sure.
Lee and I talked about where exactly that should live, what it should be. Should it live on YouTube and promote Nebula, or should it live on Nebula and he can promote it in a video, which is the path we eventually went down. But I finally got to watch it. Like, I've been waiting, bated breath for this thing. Finally got to watch it, and I agree with everything he said. And it was fun to kind of rewatch the movie without rewatching the movie, like a greatest hits moment by moment kind of a thing. And I long before I was working with either of them, I was obviously a huge Patrick Willems fan. Watching his videos and wishing I could find an excuse to be in one. Like, I feel like the last 5 years of my life have just been me scheming and stacking the deck so that I could be in this movie. And also, I'm a huge Cinema Wins fan. I watch every Cinema Wins video. I watch every Patrick video. These are two of probably my two favorite YouTube channels. And I don't mind sharing this because I've told Lee. But if my wife's out of town, I tend to fall asleep. I'll just put on a long YouTube video and like fall asleep to that. And it's almost always Cinema Wins or maybe Alt-Shift-X. But I've fallen asleep to Lee talking so many times. To get to sit down and watch a Cinema Wins video of him talking about my performance in a movie where I play myself as the agent of Patrick Willems in a movie directed by Patrick Willems. It's a real, like, it feels like I'm at YouTube fanboy fantasy camp. Yeah, it's a real joy.
It's awesome. It's also, I think I told you this the night of the premiere too, but you have one of my favorite gags. You and Matt have one of my favorite gags in the whole film, and I'm a sucker for like a shush moment, and it's the moment when you're on the couch and you're asking questions, and Matt just goes shh. It's just your face when it comes. I lost my mind.
That was a hard scene to film because I kept laughing.
I was going to say, could you, like, there must have been so many moments where the ridiculousness of everything just struck people and they laughed. Like, I have to imagine that happened.
Well, that scene we shot in our old office, the old Standard office. And but we were in sort of this transitional phase through COVID, which is why if you look, it's always a mess. We try to hide it. We shove things into corners, but the office is always a mess in that movie. But we were sitting there. I'm on the couch and he comes over and he sits down on the coffee table. The first take, he just put his finger up to his own lips and shushed me. And Patrick calls cut. And I look down and I saw there's a bottle of hand sanitizer on the underside of the coffee table. I reach down, I grab it, and I set it up, and I just say, like, clean your hands. And that's like, okay. I think he thought I was just giving him advice.
Yeah, like
he's like, all right. And I just look at him and I go, next take, go for it. And he's like, are you serious? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, just do it. And it was probably 6 or 7 takes before I could get through it without laughing. And there were several takes. I can't believe that Patrick didn't use one of them, but there were several takes where, like, his finger would go in my mouth.
Amazing.
So much more. It was much funnier. At least for me in the moment, but I kept breaking every take. We finally got through a few of them, and I feel like Patrick used the tamest one. It might be because the role I play on the show, I don't get punchlines. Like, I'm not the goofy character. I'm the straight man surrounded by all the wackiness. The one exception is the Catholic Church line. That was the one punchline I get in anything.
Yes, which is also a great line. That got a huge laugh.
It got a really weird response. It got a laugh, but also kind of an ooh. I really enjoyed that. That was an ad lib. So getting to hear the audience response in a full theater was a real joy on that one.
Yeah, I have to imagine. Like, and being in the audience was a lot of fun as someone who's just been a fan of Patrick's work for so long. And I love the story that Patrick tells that you've told also of, because I was standing with Patrick's mom when you arrived. When that limo pulled up, Patrick's mom, I should say, said to me, Matt, I wonder if that's Dave the agent. And I was like, oh, I don't know. It could be. And like, we're waiting and people are coming out of the limo and then it's you. And she goes, oh, that's Dave the agent. And so like your moment from the other side, just being starstruck by Patrick's mom, noticing you. I lived the other side of us being starstruck at you. And it was such a sweet, wholesome moment. It's very funny. I love it. And she was the star.
Oh, yeah.
Which was so cool to see. Like people asking for autographs. It was so cool. It was just wonderful.
She was such a delight that entire evening. Like, she came to the after party and everyone wanted to talk to her. The most frequently heard comment from our creators and like Nebula Standard staff and even the bar staff since then was just how much they love Patrick's mom.
Yeah.
Everybody, that's the one bit of feedback everybody had in common. They all love Patrick's mom. It's almost like cheating though.
Yeah. I mean, also, like, I had been telling Patrick since I first met him many years ago that, like, I love his parents. They're the highlights for me. I love all of it. But, like, every time they're both on screen, like, I just smile. So I knew she was going to be a delight in person as well. Like, I had no doubt in my mind. And I'll have to ask you for tips on how best to weasel your way into Patrick's videos, since I've yet to do that. And...
make him financially dependent on you. That was my strategy.
I mean, it seems to have worked, so can't argue with the results, right?
Well, I mean, I joke, like, it actually cuts both ways.
Yeah, like, sure, of course.
We make money when he makes money. But there's a real, there's a working relationship there. And so when I'm like, hey, maybe your sponsor rate goes up if I get well, I didn't say it like that. I had been
Sure.
bugging him the truth is I'd been bugging him for ages. Like like give me something to do. I'd love to be in one of these. Like that just, it looks like so much fun. Like if you ever come up with something, I'm happy to do it. Like whatever you need me for, I'm in. And it was like VidCon 2019, Sage from Just Right. I was talking to him about it. Like, yeah, what could I do there? And he's like, why don't you just play his agent? Oh shit. yeah, I guess that would do it. And so I just like I go over to Patrick. I'm like, hey, what if on this show I just played your agent? He's like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let's do that. I'm like, well, that's okay. Amazing. Okay.
All right.
Because the whole thing is that it's everyone on the show is a heightened version of people in his real life.
Right.
So I think if I have a tip here, just be more of a person in his real life.
Yeah, there you go. That's good advice.
to all the Patrick fans out there, track him down, find him
wherever he is,
and befriend him. No, don't do that. Leave the poor man alone.
Let him relax. Man, nothing gave me more serotonin than seeing his Instagram stories about being in Sweden, because I knew how overworked he was, and like as someone who also hosts 4 podcasts, edits like 3 other podcasts, doesn't know how to not work, like I felt relaxed just watching him be relaxed. So that was a nice relief.
Vicarious vacation.
Exactly.
Yeah, he needed it. I had dinner with him a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about, the future and next phase and all of that. And he kept saying to me, like, I don't want to think about it yet. Like, I have ideas, but I don't want to talk about it. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, we don't need to know what the thing is. Just give me a sense of the silhouette so I can start the things that I need to start. And he hand waves through like a very rough shape of something. And I'm like, okay, well, with that, we're talking about, this kind of budget, this much money, and I can go get the bits and pieces set up. So on the business side, it's I just have to make a thing make sense. The good news, I don't think Patrick would mind me saying this. I don't think it's privileged information, but Night of the Coconut was profitable before the premiere.
That's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I was trying to do math before the show to come up with some sense of like what the box office would be. It doesn't really work that way,
right? Yeah,
and it's all like it's all fucky trying to calculate this because it's a streaming video platform, and who knows, right? But if you look at the fact that he spent the last year and a half, 2 years promoting the fact that he was going to do the season finale on Nebula. All of the extra conversions that he's gotten, all of the extra sponsor rate he's gotten, there's like that is money being generated. When people sign up, they're also signing up for Nebula, and Nebula makes money on that. And you stack that across all of the people who signed up, and you stack that across like the other ways we sort of tangentially secret sauce make money in this, and you stack it against the supplementary stuff, the merch, the plush Charles, which sold out. All of these different things over the course of that whole time, him promoting that he was going to do a thing and getting the audience excited about it. By the time the movie came out, it had racked up enough revenue that the budget was way covered.
That's awesome. That's so amazing.
And he accidentally invented for us a whole new kind of Nebula original, this like big swing aspirational project, this the dream project thing, like what we're doing with Abby, where we can now pick out creator dream projects that aren't necessarily a logical, this is going to be a home run moneymaker, and we can get clever about how we get there. And so looking at that and imagining like, well, this did really well on this smaller budget. What if we went bigger on the next thing? I don't want to say much more than that, but like,
right, for sure.
I don't think anyone out there would be surprised hearing the guy who represents Patrick's business interests and the guy who runs Nebula saying that like it did really well and we want to do another thing in the future and we'd like to go even bigger. I don't think that's a headline that's going to shock people.
I don't think so either. I also I just have to point out, and Patrick knows this, so I framed the
look
poster
at that
and put it on my wall. It's in my office with a bunch of other really nerdy shit. And you're on that poster. You're on a movie poster.
I know.
That's just like, to have someone draw you is just always the highest form of compliment for me. I've commissioned some different artworks, and that always blows my mind.
There's a guy who did some fan art for Night of the Coconut. We wound up turning it into a poster. I'm not sure if we have this up yet. I know it will be up. I'm not sure if it's up yet. There's a fan art poster for Night of the Coconut that's like this sort of vaguely manga style art that just a beautiful, beautiful work. And this is a guy who did it like for fun on Twitter. He's like a real comic book artist. And just did this for fun because he's a Patrick fan. And we reached out like, could we do prints of this and sell? Because this is awesome. And so we're in the process of doing it. I don't know if it's up yet, but it will be.
Is that the Ron Chan one?
Yes. Is it up?
So I don't know if it's up yet, but I follow Ron. I follow Ron for a long time. He's a fan of my friend's podcast, and like we've interacted on Twitter a bunch. And so like when Ron, first of all, it's always fun to me when I find out my friends who I've never spoken to about a creator are a fan of that creator also, and you just intersect in weird ways. But like, yeah, I saw him post that poster or that artwork, and I was like, that's amazing.
It's so good.
It's incredible. Are you kidding?
Like to see these things and to see the fan reaction, people. I don't know. When I pulled up, so when I stepped out of the car, we went big. When I stepped out of the limo at the premiere, as the car's pulling up, I see the line down the block, and it hits me like, oh, holy shit! This is like, I was so worried because the tickets were free. I was so worried that people were just gonna like grab one in case they could go, and then we'd have 10 people show up, and it would look like a big dud, and we'd all be sad. Like genuinely, I was worried that would be a thing. So pulling up and seeing a line down the block of people waiting to be let into the theater and then stepping out and, giving a quick wave and walking over to the red carpet was like, how do I process this? I think when Patrick was on the show, he talked about the difference between when you have you put out a video and, 100,000 people see it or 500,000 people see it. Hell, Patrick and I were in a Mr. Beast video that was seen by like 85 million people.
Right.
For context, for comparison, the Super Bowl is seen by like 90 million people.
Wow.
And views aren't people, so who knows how many actual people watch the Mr. Beast video, but 80-something, I think it's 85, 80-something thousand views. I never, ever get recognized from that video. 80-something million views, and it never comes up. I mean, I have been recognized at a GameStop, and I had a little kid at a friend's wedding came up to me because he recognized me.
That's adorable.
But other than that, it never comes up on the street or anything like that. But I do get recognized for being Dave the Agent. And to step out and to see 200 people, or whatever the number was, I think it was 200 and something people that could fit in the theater, to be in that environment and then to watch the movie with fans, the difference between 200 people and 80 million, I would pick the 200 in a room every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every single time. The energy, there's just something to it. And part of it is that the movie's a comedy.
Yeah.
And so you get to like hear people laugh at the right moments, and the effort that you put into something, that you can hear the appreciation. Doing something in real life like that was just so much more exciting.
I mean, I can't, like, for me, again, I know Patrick I actually met Patrick through Rachel Quirky Shank, who's my co-host on another podcast. And like, I've known Patrick, tangentially for many years. And then once I got to meet him a couple times in person, we started talking more, and then he came on the show and all of that. And like, so just to be friends with someone who I know through someone else and to see his work on screen, like that blew my mind. So like for people who are actually involved in it, in the production, like I can't even begin to imagine. Like I've loved Patrick's work for so long, and I'm so proud to see the response and to see him get to enjoy the response as well, which I think was even bigger for me, is like watching, like the look on his face the entire night at that premiere was worth any amount of money, right? Because he got to experience his audience in person, which is just such a rare thing when you create content for YouTube.
Yeah, getting that level of interaction, like there's no comment section that's ever going to feel that good.
No, for sure not. I want to go back to Nebula for a sec and Standard. Like, first of all, thank you for creating the Standard, because it allowed me to get a plush Charles, who's up there, right up there. And then I was pointing for the audio listener to my backdrop where Charles rests, always looking over me ominously.
I have the real Charles here somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, Charles, he's free now, right? The movie's over. He can go do whatever he wants.
Yeah, because there's a series of coconuts used, and then for those of you who have not seen the movie, and for those of you who have, the first minute of the movie is, well, this is a spoiler if you haven't seen it, but it's the minorest spoiler. The first minute of the movie is a shot-for-shot remake of the Nicole Kidman AMC pre-roll commercial.
But with Charles.
Yeah, but except it's Charles instead of Nicole Kidman. And the gag was the thinking was that like in this universe, he's so famous that instead of asking Nicole Kidman, they asked Charles, but everything else stayed the same. We actually shot it in an AMC. Can you believe they gave us permission?
That's amazing.
AMC let us do that.
That's brilliant, though. That's
not corporate, just the manager of the theater, but they let us do it.
Right, sure.
Yeah, but they don't care.
No.
So it's a thing that happened like very last minute. Patrick was busy trying to get the movie finished, and we were talking about things that we could do. Like, should we put trailers in front of this? Like, how do we make this feel like a movie? And we had a couple of ideas, like Tropic Thunder style. Could we shoot some fake trailers? Would that be funny? Yes, but we didn't really have the time. And he didn't have any time to commit to this at all. So it's like, we're going to do something. I'll just go out and do it. I pitched the AMC thing, and he loved it. He's like, but I'm not going to be able to touch this. Like, I'll do it. And so me and Mike Worth, one of our production guys here, we just went and did it. We went and we rented a theater to watch Doctor Strange and took a bunch of camera equipment in with us. And the theater was fine with it. They didn't even give us a second look for carrying in tripods. They did not care.
Amazing.
And at one point, we're just like literally pirating Doctor Strange for about 45 seconds or so. And it's like, this feels like we shouldn't be able to get away with this. But I forgot what your question was. Oh my God.
Oh no, it was fine. I was transitioning back to Nebula and the Standard, and like thanking you for creating Plush Charles pins, a mug with Patrick's t-shirt on it, which is my favorite piece of merch, because if you show that to someone who has no idea who Patrick is, they'll go, why do you have a t-shirt on your mug? And then you'd have to explain. Like, it's always my favorite kind of bit. I'm curious, when dealing with the merch stuff and with, Nebula and like promoting the artists, like, because the Standard came first. I know merch can be a challenge, how much to order, how to manage it. And like you just said, you're out of Plush Charles. They're done. They're limited edition now. Like, what is that like? Especially on, I'm guessing, a much smaller scale than it would be for like, concert venues and that kind of thing. Has that become easier over the years to manage that kind of merch and promotion kind of thing?
I don't know. I don't manage it. We have by the way, I remembered why I went on that tangent. It was all to say that is like, I had to get the Charles to film that. So I still have that final Charles ever used. After the premiere, came back here to the office, and he just sits on a desk, sort of unceremoniously. But yeah, we're Standard as a company is 85 people. 80. Let me check the staff Slack channel. How many people are in there? 86. Yeah, must have hired somebody. 86 people in this company. So like, we have a merch team. They handle that stuff. So I'll go to them with ideas, or the creators will go to them with ideas, and then it's kind of up to them to figure out how to make it happen. I went to the team like, hey, we want to do Charles plushies. At one point, we were talking about doing Charles action figures.
I think I've heard this story from several sources that it was going to be Charles in like an empty action figure box just with Charles or something.
It was going to be like a Power of the Force bubble pack thing.
Right.
Where like it's part of an entire toy line, and it would be to the scale of like a Star Wars Power of the Force toy, which means that the actual Charles would be about half an inch long.
Right.
So there's like way more packaging than actual toy.
Right.
The reason we didn't do it is because there wouldn't be enough time to get them all made before the movie. And then COVID kept on happening, and the movie kept getting delayed. And turns out we would have had plenty of time. We totally should have done it. I kind of regret that we didn't. But like trying to keep all those parts managed with Nebula or with Standard, it's not just me. I sort of run around and hand wave and tell a bunch of smart, talented people the things that we want, and they go make it happen. And it's kind of like being the lead singer, where I get all the credit no matter what happens. So if it's bad, right, it's my fault. But if it's good, I get all the credit. Parts of that are fine and fun and exciting. Other parts can be a little exhausting. Sure. But the goal is to build the machine so that whatever the creators want, they can get.
That's awesome.
Like, you want a pony? Okay, here's how you get a pony. Sometimes you can't have a pony, and that's an awkward conversation. But like, if you're not going to get a pony, I need to have a clear, concise answer for why you can't have a pony, and if at all possible, a path to getting your pony, or building a path to a viable pony alternative.
I know we were talking about merch at some point, but now I really want a pony. So like,
maybe we can do like a plush pony. I mean, it was coconuts for a couple of years there. Who knows what could be next?
I love plushes. I have a ton on my my Expedit, but like, what I couldn't hit buy fast enough when Patrick announced the plush Charles, and the fact that it squeaks is even better. Like, it didn't need to have a squeaker, but the fact that it does, I think, completes the package.
That was such a dumb idea. It was a joke. I just threw it in there like, and it should squeak. And my exact words were, for kids. And we just thought that was funny. We just sat around. I was in the office. Patrick came by. We were filming something. I forget which episode it was for. But this often happens where we'll just like throw ideas back and forth. And he is not as ambitious in his strategy thinking. Like he doesn't assume that he can just have plush coconut toys made. Right. Or he doesn't assume that he's going to get a premiere for this movie. That's usually me going like, nah, dude, let's go big. Yeah. Let's dial this up. Let's dial this up. And to an extent, it's I get to play hype man, which is a lot of fun. And part of the joy of doing what I do is getting to see the creators enjoy their work a little bit more, or feel the rewards of it a little bit more. So sitting around coming up with stuff, it's a lot of it is me going like, yeah, we can do that. Let's do a crazy thing. Let's have fun with this. And it doesn't have to be that it's going to make giant piles of money or fat stacks of cheddar. It can and often does, but usually we just do it because we think it's funny.
That's always my favorite, like, origin for everything. And some of my favorite things that I've made is like, wouldn't this be dumb if we did this? And then you do it, and then people love it, and you're like, oh shit, whoops.
The striped shirt logo. I want to say that was Simon, our chief creative officer, who had come up with the striped shirt logo. And at one point we were talking about merch ideas, and the striped shirt logo came up. I think I might have this wrong. I think it was Simon deciding it would be really funny to have a t-shirt with a picture of a t-shirt on it. Like, that's how you do a Patrick t-shirt merch thing. You put his t-shirt on a t-shirt, and that's how you can make that work. And so it's those ideas like that, just like a little bit goofy and unclear why anybody would greenlight that. But those are the things, like the audience. You think about Patrick's audience, and Patrick's audience is people like you and me. Yeah. And we nerd out over this shit, and we enjoy the feeling of being rewarded for paying attention. We enjoy the feeling of being rewarded for being a fan. And I think that so much of our business model with Nebula is built around just reward the fans for being enthusiastic, and they will give you money. You don't need to have, I mean, yes, please, by all means, have a business plan, but the business plan doesn't need to be like building a marketing strategy around the click-through rate of emails. It can simply be, these people are already here. They're already watching your shit. They already love you. Tell them about cool stuff you're working on, and they're going to want to come see it. Tell them about a thing you're excited about, and they're going to get excited with you. And so a stuffed coconut toy selling out is kind of a surprise, because like, why would that ever happen? But at the same time, of course it happened. Of course it did, because those things are awesome and adorable. And the early days fans who were like, I don't understand what the deal is with this coconut. I hate this. If you read any of the comments from the trailer or for the epic supercut, a lot of the comments are people saying that they hated this in the beginning, but they've slowly been won over, and now they can't wait to see the movie.
Yeah.
Like, on a long enough timeline, everyone comes around to the notion that, like, look, you might think the coconut thing is stupid, but because Patrick is so committed to it, and because it's become part of the thing, you sort of love it because it's part of the thing. You're along for the ride. Whatever the ride is, no matter how weird it is, no matter how obnoxious you might think it is at times, or how you might have done things differently, you still love it.
Yeah.
I think. I hope.
I mean, clearly enough people do, as you've said. And like, it's really interesting when you bring up Nebula and giving this freedom to the creators. As a fan, what's been beautiful about it is, so I got to have this moment with one of Maggie Mae Fish's most recent videos, which was about burnout, at least as of when I looked last. She may have put out another video since, but I got to watch that on Nebula without ads, without comments. Just, it felt so much more personal And that's the thing that, whether it was intentional or not, that I get from Nebula is, as a fan of these creators, this feels more personal. I like YouTube and I watch a ton of shit on YouTube still, but something about Nebula just feels warm and personal and inviting in a way that other streaming services don't.
There's a kind of creator we work with who I think their fans, their audience attaches to them in a certain way. And on the spectrum of parasocial relationships, you have highly aspirational creators. And I think of somebody, to pick somebody we don't work with, think of like Peter Mckinnon, somebody who is known as a photographer. He's got a very particular style. He sort of pioneered a style that now everyone who does YouTube videos about photography or camera gear, they all copy him. He's the gold standard. He's what I would call an aspirational creator. People don't want to get to know him. They don't feel like he is their friend. They want to be him.
Right.
And then there are the more parasocial creators where you feel like this person is your friend. They're a character in your story, and it makes you feel as if in a way you're a character in theirs. And for those fans to get to support the creators, that's what Patreon does. This creator is a character in my story, and now I get to be a character in their story by supporting them on Patreon. And maybe I see my name in the credits, and that gives me a little bit of a rush of like, I supported something I love, and now I get to be a part of it. And I think that we tilt more in that direction. There's an extreme end of that spectrum that gets super gross. We steer away from those types of creators. It gets toxic fast at that extreme end. But where we live is this sort of like thoughtful, education-y, nerds talking about nerd shit kind of creator. And you know, those fans, they attach, and sometimes it can be a little much, but it's all with the best of intentions. It's all very it's all in good faith. These are good people, and they just love the creators. They love what they're making. And so even getting weird comments now and then, it's easy to kind of write that off, because, you know, at the end of the day, these people just want what's best. Like if somebody leaves a comment, you know, complaining about the coconut, or this is stupid, or this movie looks bad, or I'm tired of you, I don't care about you making movies with your middle school friends, or, you know, whatever the thing is. Those people, like, well, one, fuck you, but two, it's the fact that you cared enough to complain, I guess. Yeah. This is, if you've been watching this long and you're only like, if you know enough to know that that's what's happening and you're still watching in a certain way, well, again, one, shut up, but two, thank you for caring enough. I've been thinking a lot lately about the sound of failure, and how the real sound of failure is silence.
Yes.
If you fuck up and someone is yelling at you and you feel bad, you feel small, like you make a mistake and your boss like calls you into their office and you're getting chewed out, it's really easy to feel bad, but that person is doing you a favor. If someone on the street is pointing out a mistake you made, or yelling at, and some people are just assholes and they want to yell, and that doesn't mean anything. But somebody, if you genuinely screw up, or if you genuinely make a mistake or do something bad, somebody yelling at you or dressing you down is a kindness, even if it doesn't feel that way in the moment. More likely is that you're going to hear nothing, and not ever getting the feedback means you're never going to have a chance to change. And that person is not going to take the action of addressing it with you. They're going to simply disengage. They're gonna tune out. They're gonna go away. And it's the sound of failure is silence, because it's your phone not ringing. It's your notifications not going off with an invite to a party or to an event, or your LinkedIn not chiming with people wanting to hit you up about coming to work with them. That's the real sound of failure. And so in the creator space, the audience being engaged, even if they're fussy, that's still, there's value in that. Yeah. So the kinds of creators we work with tend to encourage those types of relationships. And I think that building those relationships with that kind of audience, it's the most important thing we can help them do.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's apparent at the quality. I mean, like, At times I'll open up Nebula and I'll just watch the creator who I like, who put out their new latest thing. And then sometimes I'll just go to like what's popular and just pick a thing, like see a topic and pick a thing. And I can't think of a time where I've clicked off. Like I'll watch whatever the thing is because of the curation, and like it's clear you care about the content you're bringing to the world. You're not just going, hey, you want to be a part of our thing? Come on in. like I'm sure there's some of that, right? Like you want to help people, but like there's definitely a level of quality, understanding, and care.
Do we want to help people? Do I care? I don't know. Is that a thing? Is that a thing we need to do? I will occasionally get emails from creators who are like, how do I become a creator on Nebula? And it's I don't know. I've sort of committed this period of my life to helping independent creators and to building tools and systems that can empower the middle class of content creator. But when I see an email like that, I got an email today, literally today, from somebody just asking, how do I become a creator on Nebula? They didn't tell me who they were. They didn't include a link to their channel. They just mark as spam. Like I don't have any faith in this. I don't what is this interaction to me?
Right.
Dear CEO of Netflix, how do I get a show?
Right. Of course. Yeah.
Like, what are you bringing to the table? What is the upside for us? At the end of the day, we're running a business here. So like, if we're going to put something on there, there's got to be a good, compelling reason. It doesn't have to be money. We work with creators who don't make a profit for us. I'm fine with that. There's sometimes like people of color or people who are a part of a marginalized group, sometimes there's a really great voice and you just want to help them find more of an audience, and it's worth doing. But the idea of just like, we're out there, this isn't a charity.
Right. Of course not.
So I think a lot of what makes the curation work on Nebula is that we don't actually curate much of the content. We have a PJ who is sort of the content director person for Nebula. He will like assemble what the rails are and making sure that like there's things floating up and like green lighting new originals we curate in that way. But we mostly just curate the creators. Like we're very selective about who we work with. And as long as we're good about those selections, then the content is always good. Like you can click on any random Nebula video and it's going to be pretty great because the creators are pretty great. And we feel pretty good about that. I was talking to a YouTube executive about the differences between the challenges that YouTube faces and the challenges that Nebula faces. It comes as a surprise to people often that we are so friendly with YouTube, but like we're YouTubers. Of course, we're friendly with YouTube. We will do everything we can to be friendly with YouTube. They love us and we love them. They're actually really supportive of Nebula. A couple of YouTube executives came to me complaining about streaming quality because they were trying to watch the new episode of Jet Lag. And it turns out there's a CDN issue. We got it fixed. But YouTube executives came to me because they were so desperate to watch something on Nebula. So, it's all good. We're very close friends. But I was talking to a YouTube executive about the differences between the challenges that we face and the challenges they face. And the thing that came out of it, that they very much acknowledge that the average quality of a video on Nebula is much higher than the average quality of a video on YouTube. Like if I wrote a script that sent you a random YouTube link and I wrote a script that sent you a random Nebula link, chances are the Nebula video is going to be way better than the YouTube video.
Correct.
So that's our approach to curation is you just get good people and they make good things.
I mean, it's that simple. Why didn't I think of that? But I genuinely mean it. Like I really do love Nebula. I'm someone also, and I'm curious actually, as someone who also clearly, like me, is terminally online and can't turn their brain off and has to watch tons of things all the time and consume. I don't watch as much TV as I used to. I watch TV with my partner a lot, and like I watch the big tentpole stuff because I'm a fanboy. But like when I'm relaxing at the end of a long workday, I pull up YouTube. I look for a creator to see if they put out a new video. I check my subscription page, and I watch something there more often than not. As someone who's always done that, do you find yourself more continuing to lean towards that kind of content versus watching the latest movie or the latest TV show? Or do you not kind of separate it that way anymore? You just watch whatever you're in the mood to watch?
I mentioned earlier about 10 years ago, I was introduced to YouTube, and I became a fan of a lot of these creators, and like really fell in love with all the great educational stuff that was on YouTube. When I was a kid, I'm a high school dropout. I didn't do well in school, not because I was dumb, but because like the structure didn't work for me. Right. And there's like social stuff and whatever. I don't want to make too many assumptions about your audience, but I'm assuming there's one or two people out there who might be able to identify with the notion of not being especially cool in high school and not quite knowing how to handle that.
Yes.
And that was certainly me. I was very socially awkward and socially anxious, and I couldn't hang, and I had to get out. But I would like turn on PBS, or I'd find documentaries, and I had a Mead composition notebook filled with notes I had taken from things that I learned watching Bill Nye the Science Guy.
Oh, I love that. My heart.
I would watch it every day, and my rule was I had to find like 5 things I could write down. And this is just a thing that I did. I really wanted to learn, and that was a fun way to learn. And I was sad at 15 that there weren't more things like that, because all we had was cable. The internet wasn't really it was in its early stages, but not super useful for this. And so hitting a point over the last 10, 15 years where this kind of thing on the internet could be so accessible and so, I guess, possible, it makes me really happy. And I've gotten to work with Bill Nye, which was an absolute dream come true. And I get to watch these videos, and I get to work with the people who make these things, and it's all such a dream come true. And I love this content. I want to do everything I can to support these kinds of creators and these genres, but I can't watch the stuff anymore. Not because it's bad, but because I do this all day, every day. It's harder for me. Like, I can watch a Patrick video because Patrick makes movies about movies. And so I can get kind of lost in it. A Cinema Wins video is just so, I guess, paralyzingly positive that I put it on, and I just kind of like, I'm just stunned by positivity, and I want to. It's like you step out. It's like a cat walking into a sunbeam and just needs to lay there and take a nap. That's how I feel about that. Right. But it's not a thing that like I sit down at the end of a long day and turn on my TV and like, oh, let's see what's on YouTube. Kind of, but probably not the way that I would have before. I think part of it is that at a certain point, somebody once said that when you work in podcasts, at a certain point, listening to podcasts is just like hearing your friends have a conversation without you.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. Yeah.
Or it was like listening to your coworkers talk. It's like, you know, all these people, like it's just different. And so for me, I it's hard to disconnect if I'm watching like a Wendover video or something. I spend so much of my free time with Sam from Wendover that to sit down and listen to him talk about planes for 15, 20 minutes, it's like, I can't, it's too weird. It's too weird. So sometimes I forget how smart these people are, because I know them from sort of different, not that I think they're dumb, but you know, like,
yeah,
like, oh, right, you know a lot of things. You have a PhD. I forgot about that. So like a lot of what I watch, I want to disconnect from work. I want to disconnect from what I was doing all day. So going home and watching more YouTube, I will for work, but in relax time, like let me put on The Boys or Stranger Things or whatever, the tentpole stuff, like whatever people are watching, I'll just put that on. What am I watching now? Oh, For All Mankind. I was getting caught up on the new season of that. It's really good. Better Call Saul is out. That's amazing. Like stuff like that, I'll try to keep up with. Whatever crap Marvel's turning out, I'll watch all of it because I'm an idiot.
I mean, I'm the same. I loved Thor: Love and Thunder, and it's not a bad movie. But I enjoyed it. Yeah. You know what it is I didn't go in expecting much from it, and I got what I expected. I still think Multiverse of Madness was a better movie because it was a Sam Raimi movie and felt like a Sam Raimi movie. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't gone to a Marvel movie and went, this is cinema, in a very long time. So the critiques roll off, I think. But that said, they're all valid. I don't think any of the major critiques about Love and Thunder were invalid. I just kind of went, it was fine, and then I went home and didn't think about it again.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of why. Like, I walk out of the theater and I'm like, instantly I forget that I just saw that movie. it feels like the Ragnarok came out. They went in thinking, well, we want to change things up for the third Thor movie. Let's bring in a wacky director to like take it in a fun, different direction. He pitched this fun vision, and they let him off the leash a little bit, and then that did really well. So they let him off the leash entirely, and it turns out maybe a little bit of leash would have been okay. It's like everything that was fun about Ragnarok. Well, I mean, in this movie, Thor's an idiot. That's not okay. All right, that's fine. It looked like the cast had fun. I guess that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, like, Thor did stupid things in Ragnarok, but he wasn't an idiot. He was like a lovable himbo. Like, he meant well, and he made good decisions, and then sometimes made a few bad decisions. Whereas in this one, it was just he didn't know anything, and it was odd, that kind of further degradation of how he could make good decisions.
Yeah. It feels like, in general, Marvel has had a couple of big hits as a result of bringing in directors with like a wackier or more colorful vision, James Gunn and Taika Waititi, and they decided, like, okay, let's have directors really leave their mark on a thing. And I would say Multiverse of Madness feels like a Sam Raimi movie in all of the worst possible ways, and everything that would be great about a Sam Raimi movie doesn't really fit in this movie and doesn't really happen. So it's like all of his worst tendencies are captured without as much of the good flavor to balance it out. Taika Waititi, his second swing at Thor, it's like all of his worst tendencies unchecked. James Gunn, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, is all of his worst tendencies unchecked. So, I'll still watch it all. I'm the weird thing is, are you caught up on Ms. Marvel?
I am.
So I don't want to spoil it for anybody who doesn't know, but there is a thing that happens at the very end. It's not even part of the story. It's like a throwaway line.
Yep.
With a musical cue to go with it. And that was the most excited I've been about anything Marvel since Endgame.
Okay.
That was the first moment where I went like, yes, a thing is happening. And like Doctor Strange didn't do it for me. WandaVision, I guess the first chunk of it, I guess it's not fair. The first chunk of WandaVision I really loved. Loki I thought was pretty great all the way through. But otherwise it's all been good or pretty good. None of it bad per se, but just like good. And I wish that it were, I wish I were as excited now as I was in like 2017, 2018.
Yeah, I mean, that's legit. Like, I think the things I've enjoyed the most are the stuff that felt kind of isolated. Like, I loved Moon Knight.
Did you?
Well, so for a few reasons, I think as a Jewish human, to have the Jewish superhero on a TV show, I never really thought would happen. And though they got some of the Judaism stuff wrong, they took a good swing at it. And like, I don't know, I like Oscar Isaac, and I thought it was an interesting study on its own. And I really liked Ms. Marvel also because it felt pretty contained. But like, my favorite Marvel movie in a long time was Shang-Chi, because it was just a cool action kung fu flick that didn't really have much weight on the rest of the MCU. And like, that was kind of a release for me, like a reprieve. All the bigger storylines took a break.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I don't know what but that said, I don't even know what I want from it. Like, my favorite film of the year is Everything Everywhere All at Once, because it was just awesome and so different from everything else.
I still haven't seen it. I know I need to. It's on my up next on my TV. And every time I sit down to watch it, something happens. It's been weeks I've been trying to watch this, and I haven't been able to.
Well, I hope for you that you get to, because it was phenomenal. But like, I couldn't even tell you why that movie. I'm sure someone much smarter than me could tell you why that works and other things don't. But I can't. I just know I liked it more. Then again, I also loved the Venom movies, and they are not good. They are bad movies.
Objectively bad movies.
But I absolutely love them. And it's not in an ironic, it's bad, I love it. Like, I enjoy those films. So, like, maybe my brain is just broken. I don't know. I think that we just have to consume the best we can with what we love, because, like... the rhyme or reason to, I mean, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, so it's all just like, whatever. We're just trying to figure it out.
How did you feel? I don't think I want to ask this question.
I love when guests ask me questions, please.
When you think about the stuff you watch, what you say, no ethical consumption under capitalism. How do you decide what is worth your time?
What a great question.
Because there's the tuning out and turning off your brain but there's so much stuff. Do you decide based on brand name? Is it like Marvel made it, so I'll watch it? I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah. I mean, well, for the Venom movie specifically, Venom is one of my favorite characters. I'm a 90s kid, like Wolverine and Venom. Like, I'm very predictable. And so, like, that was the big impetus to watch that. And the fact that they were, like, fun to watch just made it worth it. But I don't know. I think, like I was saying before, I watch a lot of YouTube because it's shorter form and I can kind of just do it while I kind of work on other things. And I don't watch a lot of appointment TV except with my spouse. That dictates a lot. My spouse has incredible taste. They're an actress and they've worked in podcasting for a while. And so like they just know stuff about stuff. And so I trust them to like direct me. When it's on my own, it's really the recommendation of people I trust a lot of the time. Like, especially like I have a video game podcast. And so like most of the games I play, like if I get a code for something to talk about it, of course I'll play it and give it a shot. But like most of the stuff I play lately, it's like if someone's really enthusiastically interested in it and I trust their opinion, even if I don't always agree with it, I'll check that stuff out. And like the stuff that's been outside my comfort zone has been all that stuff. With the pop culture stuff, I couldn't tell you. I think it's just it's a warm blanket, right? Like it's a comfort food. Like
Yeah.
like I enjoyed Obi-Wan Kenobi. I have to watch it again because I don't know if I actually think it was good or good for that narrative. But like
I forgot it existed until you said it.
right? And
I watched all of it.
yeah. And like that's been a lot of the reaction to it. But also I'm someone who unabashedly enjoys Star Wars, but I refuse to talk about it. Like this is the most conversation I've had about a Star Wars anything anywhere. Because like what I don't want to do is engage online with anyone who watches Marvel, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Star Trek. Like for the most part.
Yeah, fans are the worst.
Yeah. And I mean the broad fans. Like I love talking to my friends about that stuff. But even still, it's like I'd much rather talk to my spouse about why we love the new Star Trek and why I think Anson Mount is hot, not the broader public, because the nitpicking and the YouTube commenter generation, I guess, which has been a lot of it, is like I don't want to engage with that. And so I think while my brain is often following recommendations of the people I respect, I am less likely to engage in conversation about it in public spaces or think too hard about it in public spaces because of that whole side of the fandom that just gets more and more toxic every year. So there's a very long-winded answer to your very simple question.
I think that, well, part of it is you mentioned video games, which is a really interesting diversion. This is going to sound like I'm like being passive aggressive here, but like the question was like, how do you decide what to watch? And you talked about video games for a second, and that's such an interesting comparison point because there's a passive nature to like, I'm going to put on this movie for a couple of hours. And if it's bad or even if it's good, like I'm only committing a couple of hours of my life to this. Part of what I loved video games when I was a kid. I played constantly, well into my 20s. These days, like I have a Switch, I have a PS5, and like I 100%ed Miles Morales and then started New Game Plus and 100%ed that. Like I can get into some shit, but I very rarely pick up a new game because I know that I'm looking at like probably a 40-hour commitment to get through this. And I just ain't nobody got time for that. Even a show, even like if like Moon Knight, love it or hate it, you're in for like 5.5 hours.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I would love to someday introduce you to the wide world of quality indie games because that's where I live, is incredible curated experiences that are 10 to 15 hours long. And that's a lot of what I play. But also, talking about the passive side of it, I got obsessed with the Yakuza video game franchise, which is just the series of games that have been around for ages that are made by RGG Studios and Sega. And they are part wacky comedy, like kung fu flick, like mob drama, and like a lot of it, like there's a lot of action in it, but a lot of it is watching these dramatic or fun or goofy cutscenes unfold, and like it feels like watching a show. And like I'd much rather do that for 25 hours or 30 hours than watch a TV show where I'm not doing anything. And maybe it's the interaction part of it. And that's probably why I reflexively brought it up when talking about watching stuff. But you're absolutely right. I wasn't going to play Elden Ring when it came out because I heard how long it was. And then I bought it and played it and became obsessed with it. And so I put the time in. But like most of those big tentpole video game AAA franchises, that I used to put all that time into. Now the thought of spending 80 hours on one game, I'm like, I don't have time for that. What am I going to do that in hour chunks for the next 3 months? So I get that. It's totally the experiences you can find that really grab you. And I find the shorter, more interesting narrative stuff that grab me. Like there's a game that came out today called Stray where you play as a cat in a all robot world that's kind of post-apocalyptic.
Oh yeah, I had some people talking about that.
And like that seems interesting to me because it's so different, I also devoured Miles Morales and then played it again immediately because it was so much more bite-sized than the other Spider-Man game, which I also enjoyed.
I also 200%ed that one. It's the comfort food of video games in a way. Like there's very low stakes, and the system is not. It's complex enough to feel complex, or it's complex enough to be interesting, but not so complex that you feel that you're like that. There's no grind to it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Before we start to wrap up, since you've played the Spider-Man games, my only talking about moments in your life where you get to meet the people that you respect or admire.
You met Spider-Man?
I met Spider-Man. He was great. I mean, yes, I did. So not once, but twice on my video game podcast, Fun and Games, Yuri Lowenthal, the voice of Spider-Man, was a guest. Twice.
Wow.
The second time he asked to come back, which I still don't feel is real. Like he just emailed me, "Hey Matt, I had a great time. Can I come back on?" Yes.
Amazing.
Sure.
Amazing.
And so those kinds of moments are more fun for me being in that scene and having played games my whole life. I mean, I also Yuri is the voice of Superman in the Legion of Superheroes. He's done so many things, and I'm a voice actor nerd, so that's kind of a different thing. But I think for me to get invested in anything now, going back to answer your question finally with a more concise thing, is I think legacy of what I love is more of an investment than anything else. It's probably why I keep watching the Marvel stuff, right? I'm invested at this point. I've watched all of the films. I've seen all the TV shows. I want to see where this goes. So I feel obligated to keep watching. Though that said, it didn't keep me watching the CW shows. So that doesn't even have a through line. But I think it's I stick with certain video games because the legacies of the characters or the console or the pedigree. I love Zelda and Mario, those kinds of things. Metroid, I'll go back and play those games. Whereas Red Dead Redemption 2, beyond the terrible practices at Rockstar, I was I don't want to play a cowboy game where I didn't play the first one that's 80 hours long. Who wants to dive into that? And so I think stuff that feels like comfort or stuff that I'm familiar with, I tend to lean into more because it seems easier than
the devil. There's less of a you're a sunk cost fallacy of relationship. I wonder. I'm thinking now, maybe Star Wars is my best friend from high school, where we had some good times, but we've kind of drifted apart. But sometimes we get together, and it's always fine. Not good enough that I want to hang out all the time, but this is okay. I'm reminded of the good times we had, and we mostly just sit around talking about the good times we used to have. Everything is a reference to stuff from before, but I wouldn't necessarily seek out having new experiences with that friend, but we will occasionally get together for dinner or a drink and talk about all the good stuff that used to happen. I guess that is the best metaphor I can come up with for my relationship with Star Wars. And I wonder how much all of my media relationships are like that to a certain degree. How much is it possible that maybe Endgame was the best the MCU is ever going to get? I don't know. In Feige we trust, right? Let's see what happens. Let's see where this is all going. Give it time. I'm not as excited today as I was a few years ago, but I'm still I'm along for the ride, and hopefully it all goes well and I get something out of the experience. I'm also sort of glad that I'm not as excited now as I was, because there's room for it to get better again. The concern after Endgame was how could anything ever top that? Our expectations are so high. Well, great job lowering my expectations, guys. We're still friends, but I'm not super hyped.
Yeah, I mean that's the real key, is just tank some stuff and then people will come back around. That's the real
just phone it in for a little while and people will be more excited when you start picking it up again.
There it is. That's the magic sauce. We figured it out.
Yeah, I think maybe the secret to deciding what to watch next, or how we select the ways we spend our time with the content, the C word, is really about the investment we have in those relationships. And maybe in real life, even if the friends we spend our time with aren't the most mind-blowing experiences, maybe there's just like value in the relationship and the familiarity. And it doesn't have to be, every date doesn't have to be the most exciting date you've ever been on, you know?
Yeah. There is a
Maybe.
solace and comfort. Yeah. I don't have all the answers or claim to, Dave, but I appreciate this conversation and this hypothesis. This was incredible. Thank you for asking that question.
Thank you for coming on my show.
You're welcome. Before we wrap up, I've been asking my guests this question because we are still living in a pandemic, as much as people pretend that it doesn't exist anymore. And so please get vaccinated, boosted, wear a mask, all of that stuff. But I like to look on the positive of as much as I can. And while the pandemic was hard for all of us in a multitude of different ways, I like asking guests their golden lining moment, their like moment in the pandemic that like, if it weren't for the pandemic, this might not have happened. This is a good thing, or like this good thing happened during this terrible time. Is there something that comes to mind for you as like a standout moment of like what, like this good thing happened in this bad time?
We all got locked in our homes for a little while, and you couldn't go to stores anymore. You all of your shopping was online. Anything you wanted to buy, your only option beyond groceries and household goods was to purchase things online. And you couldn't go to movie theaters anymore. So if you wanted to watch a movie, you had to watch your movies online. The entire world moved onto the internet. Human interaction was replaced by Zoom. I have a friend, no joke, who met his now live-in extremely serious girlfriend. Their first date was over Zoom, early pandemic days. So we all sort of like learned how to live online, and nobody really knew how to work online yet. I mean, some people did, but that was very confusing for a minute there. A lot of people had to stay at home because they had like, service jobs or things that required you to be theater jobs, that kind of a thing. A lot of people at home looking for things to do. And they all start looking for things to watch. And sooner or later, you run out of Tiger King and Stranger Things. And you turn to YouTube and this brand new streaming service that just came out with a bunch of smart people doing stuff on it. And all those YouTube videos are pointing you over to the smart people thing. And when you stay on the YouTube video, the only way you can buy things anymore is through the internet. So internet advertising suddenly becomes a lot more effective. So the two best things you possibly could have invested your time and money in during the pandemic were online advertising and streaming video. And it happens to be that those are the two things that I do. So it's always weird to say this because like in almost every way, the pandemic was one of the worst things to happen to human beings.
Right.
But for me personally, I made a lot of money and a lot of creators made a lot of money. Yeah. And a lot of new tools and systems have been built out of that. And a lot of new audience relationships have been built out of that. And I can joke about like, I made a ton of money, whatever. I spent it all on vaccines. Oh, wait, they're free. I spent it all on toilet paper. There we go. Yeah, the truth is that I love that the creator economy, which was already becoming a thing, was already, creators are doing okay. What the COVID era did was open a lot more people up to this kind of creator and help to legitimize them in the eyes of more people. And we take some steps towards when people think YouTuber, they don't just think Logan Paul's suicide video or Mr. Beast. God love him. Mr. Beast is he's a game show host who sells junk food to children. May not be what I want people thinking of when they think YouTuber. So legitimizing the profession and legitimizing these creators and helping them make a living, especially at a time when jobs were insecure, knowing that this group of people who were working so hard to educate and inform, especially around things like vaccination and like public health issues, they got a pardon the pun here, but like a real shot in the arm to help promote their their stories, that information, that knowledge. We work with doctor YouTubers. We work with climate change YouTubers, and they've never necessarily struggled to find an audience. They do fine, but like there's a whole new category, a whole new I don't want to say generation, because it's not about an age thing, but just like now there's this whole new wave of people who are watching more stuff online, who are getting better information. And I just hope to God that means that those people are smarter now. But it does say something to me or it means something to me that the people who are out there trying to be good citizens and good human beings and talk about sustainability and how we can be healthier and take fewer risks and protect the people who might need a little bit of protecting. I love those voices are getting heard, and it's weird to say that the pandemic helped to enable some of that. But if there's a silver lining, it's either that or the fact that I don't have to open my door for delivery people anymore.
That was
one of those two.
One of those two. It could be either or. They're the same.
I also really like there's free hand sanitizer everywhere. That's fun.
I used hand sanitizer so much pre-pandemic, and so like now that it's everywhere and I can use it constantly, now everyone's just as obsessive about it as I am. So like they met me at my level, which I appreciate.
I'm the same way. Like I'll carry it around with me. I'm a bit of a germaphobe, and so at our office we have a closet full of, for the sanitizer dispensers, refills. So when COVID hit and everybody's like, you can't get hand sanitizer, people are making it at home, I'm like, I got a closet full, I will be fine. I was giving bags out to friends, like, you need hand sanitizer, come on by, I'll hook you up.
That's amazing. Now who's laughing? It's the germaphobes. We're laughing now.
What's Dave, your answer to that? What do you think the best thing? What is your moment?
Dave, you're just competing for best guest ever here on the first episode after the 200 mark.
Well, I mean, I've ranted about the Nebula stuff for a while. Now we're just talking. I want to hear your side of this, the conversation.
I mean, honestly, for me, it's not too dissimilar to your answer, and I'm not just copping out as a creator. Also, it's like
cheater.
Like I've been working on podcasting for 10 years. I also was an event DJ and did a bunch of other things, as people around, I'm guessing, our age do. Too many things at once. And like,
are we the same age? I don't actually know how old you are.
So I'll be 39 in October.
Okay. Yeah, we're roughly the same age.
I noticed how you didn't volunteer how old you are.
I'm 41. I wasn't sure if a specific number was necessary.
No, it's not. No. But no, like, it's one of those things where right before the pandemic hit, I was doing a lot of DJing for burlesque shows, and it was fun, but it wasn't feeling like the thing I wanted to do. And I was thinking about pivoting to just focusing on my podcasts.
DJing for burlesque shows.
Yep. And live theater all over New York. I also did event DJing and bar mitzvahs and weddings and stuff too. But like,
well, I mean, of course,
that's the standard fare.
That's how you pay the bills, so you can pursue your passion of DJing at burlesque shows.
Exactly. Because they didn't pay that well. But no, it was fun to be a part of nightlife and meet some really cool people, and like the performers are all really awesome and nerdy, and like it was a lot of fun. But like I was like, I love podcasts. I'm obsessed with them. I want to work on mine more. I want to grow mine, do more in-person stuff. I'm gonna apply to a bunch of conventions, get a bunch of press passes, which I did leading up to like March of 2020. I'd done a PAX East, which is a gaming convention. But I did that like end of February 2020. I was like, this is going to be my year. I'm going to go at all these things. And then the pandemic happened. And instead of getting upset about it and missing out on all those press opportunities, I went, well, I'll buckle down. I'm going to work harder on the shows. I'm going to meet some people online. I'm going to make some connections and see if I can grow, get better guests, create some new stuff. And I did. I created a brand new show within my video game podcast feed called Side Quests, which is each episode is a different host talking about a game they love and why they love it for 5 to 20 minutes. It's a monologue. There's no judgment, no comments, no nothing. It's just they get to talk about a game they love with no rules. And it was born out of this idea of the YouTuber comment generation, the Twitter commenter generation of like, there's one screenshot. That game's going to suck. And I'm like, really? The negativity is necessary on the one screenshot from the franchise you love that you know nothing about the new game? So I created this series, and it's wildly become one of the things that the more people ask me to be a part of now. And I just produce the thing. I just put it out. It's their voices. And like, I've been able to put a ton of marginalized voices in that. I get to handpick who I want to be a part of it. So like I can curate it to not just be all straight white dudes. And some of my best friends are straight white dudes, but like trying to diversify the pool. And like, if not for the pandemic and me really getting to buckle down on creating that series, it would have never taken off. We've now released 161 episodes of it.
Wow.
Which is wild to me. It airs 3 times every 2 weeks with the 4th episode instead being the main show, Fun and Games. It's how I got to meet Yuri Lowenthal and get him to come on the show, is through friends I made doing that show. Like, the pandemic was really hard, but me and my co-hosts were already recording remotely, and we made the shift so seamlessly that I was able to actually really dive into something that now I am absolutely 100% passionate about and want to do for a living. And I'm working for that to become my main thing. And I have some stuff in motion to hopefully bring in more income doing that. But like, it just gave me the opportunity to finally like grow up, which sounds so trite, but like to really admit this is the thing I want to do. And now I can do it and put 100% of my attention into it, which was not a thing I did before the pandemic started.
And it's all audio stuff, no video stuff?
It's all audio stuff.
Why?
I host.
I can see that you have a camera.
I do.
And you have a face.
I do. Shocking for many, I know, that I actually have a face. It's always been odd because I've never had the skill set to edit video. I'm sure I can learn, but I've always been really good at and talented at editing audio.
It's also kind of the same thing, especially if you're doing YouTube stuff.
Yeah.
You mostly edit to the audio. I think a podcast editor would probably be a better video editor for YouTube than like a film editor would be.
That's good to know. I've never known that.
Yeah, because like the way to, here's a pro tip for any aspiring YouTubers out there, or for any creators who are looking for, I don't know, pro tips. When you think of your video, it's a visual medium, and you should optimize. You should take advantage of the visual medium. And if you're not doing interesting things visually, go make a podcast instead. What are you doing? However, that said, a lot of people will watch YouTube videos with the screen off. My advice, if you are a YouTuber, whenever possible, if you're doing video essays or whatever, if you can make it so that your video fails gracefully to being a podcast, you're probably going to get a better retention and a more attentive audience than you would if the videos like required visual attention the entire time. Some people treat video as more of a lean forward experience, and some people treat video as more of a lean back experience. And if you can capture both, that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, it's funny you bring that up. So there's a video version of this on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel's got like 30 subscribers. It's a thing that I have, but I export this, and it's a still image of the show art and then the audio. So if people want to listen via YouTube, it's available. And I do that with, I think, at least one of my other podcasts. And so I think the short answer to why no video is just it's been easier for me to do audio. Libsyn does export automatically to YouTube, but you have to set up a bunch of stuff. But I've dabbled with doing video stuff, and it's just when you really know how to work within a medium and you just go, I know how this works, it just seemed easier than doing a video version as well. I've dabbled with doing live events, and now that I'm actually getting press passes to convention and I've done a few live panels that then I convert into audio podcasts as well, I've dabbled with the idea of doing more video stuff and more live stuff, but it's just the passion has always been audio.
This is I'm already like mindful and self-conscious of the fact that I made a joke earlier about making a ton of money off the pandemic, because people are going to potentially, I have a dry sense of humor, and I'm a little worried that people are going to take that seriously.
I don't,
especially after I say this. There's a lot of money in YouTube. There's a lot of money in video. I worked for years in podcast, and I've worked for years in video. And I currently, because Nebula, we handle both. Like Nebula has a whole podcast section. There's a lot of money in video. It's not even close. There's just a ton of revenue potential.
The podcasts that have had the most interactions, and that the podcast network itself has a YouTube video, and we've done animated talking heads for a lot of the shows and stuff. And so like that's gotten some response, and my video game podcast automatically exports to its YouTube channel, which currently has 300 subscribers. So like not nothing, it's something. And so like I'm easing my way into it, but I hear you. And yeah, I've absolutely dabbled with the idea. And as I kind of shift more towards it becoming more and more my focus, I do want to dabble more in YouTube. So I will take that with me, Dave the Agent. I appreciate it.
The biggest podcast I ever worked with was doing pretty respectable numbers, couple 100,000 downloads per episode, and was making sustainably probably 40 to 50,000 per episode on sponsorships across a couple of different sponsors. Like you got to book like the 3 spots to fill in the thing. The most successful video creator I've worked with peaked at about 350,000 for a single video.
Wow.
Yeah. Every single person, well, think of it this way. With a podcast, the first 1,000 people who listen, think of your 1,000th download with a brand new podcast you put out. That 1,000th download, I guarantee you, is somebody that you convinced to go listen to your show. Yeah. Either you had another show and you promoted it, they heard about you and actively sought you out by clicking a link or following the link in your profile or whatever it is. You earned that listener.
Yeah.
On YouTube, you upload a video, you hit publish, and if it's good, the algorithm robots will go out and find you 5 million people to watch it.
Right. Yeah.
There is a system. There's this excited little robot puppy that wants to make all of the viewers happy, and it just brings those users videos that they'll enjoy. And if your video is a video that kind of person enjoys, man, that robot puppy is going to find every one of those people and bring them your video. And that's how the whole machine works. Whereas on podcasts, like it's such a chore. And I don't hate podcasts. Quite the opposite. I grew up on podcasts in this section of the industry. I was a podcaster before I ever did YouTube stuff. But my take on it is that the thing that makes podcasts great, that decentralized nature, is also like the worst enemy of the podcaster. And as much as YouTubers love to complain about the YouTube algorithm, the fact is, like, that algorithm, that's the reason you have a business, buddy. That's the whole thing. You did not go out. Well, I'll see creators complain about, well, complainers. Sometimes I see complainers create, but I'll see complaints about the algorithm is suppressing my video. It's not bringing me as many views as I used to get. And it's like, nobody owes you a view.
No,
nobody owes you anything. You didn't earn that audience. You feel like you did. The system has tricked you into thinking you earned it. In a way you did. You made good content, and the system went out and found an audience and then kept showing more of that audience, more of your stuff. Good for you. But it's not the same thing with podcasts. With podcasts, right. Like, you really have to work. If you're making money doing podcasts and nothing but podcasts, I have serious respect for that, because I know how hard it is. I know how much work goes into getting anybody to listen to anything you do.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me also, though, is because I'm also a producer and an editor and like a marketer. Like, I know how to do the other stuff besides just talking into the microphone. That's where
you have to. Yeah,
that's where the money is. Like, I want to make money editing and producing shows. If I can get someone to pay me to host my own show, great. But like, that's not the goal. The goal is to get paid to do the other stuff and then use that money to grow the things that I'm working on.
What if you could? What if you could get paid just to make the things you want to make? Would you give up the editing work?
I mean, sure, I think so. But I don't know. I actually enjoy audio editing, so I enjoy that work. So I don't know that I would give it up. And I'm editing for a bunch of shows now, and I'm working on some contracts for some other stuff coming up. And so, like, I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm playing like Dave the Agent / psychologist here. If you lived in a world where you could choose between editing a bunch of other people's shows and sort of blue collar style, like you're working a job, right? Like, you're keeping the lights on, you're good. Or building a business around the things that you want to make, like building your brand and like empire building is a little bit, maybe a bit of a stretch, but that kind of vibe. Like, you're out there, you're creating something that can maybe run without you when you want to take a vacation. You take 2 weeks off and the machine kind of keeps running. You're making that passive income, and you get to retire early or focus more on the other things that you want to build. Like, which of those paths is more interesting to you?
Obviously.
There's no wrong answer. I sort of set it up like there is a right answer, but there really isn't.
I mean, I think I like a hybrid of both, but obviously if I could just get paid to create the shows that I make and like hand over the reins when I want to go on vacation, that kind of thing, instead of banking 4 episodes and scheduling them all before I go anywhere. Yeah, of course. That's the ultimate goal, is to do that. And I've been working to figure that out, I think. But again, I don't know that I would give up the editing completely. I mean, I edit my own shows, but not all of them. I share that duties with some of my co-hosts too.
My take on this has always been, what I tell YouTubers all the time is the first person you need to hire is an editor.
Yes.
And I hear, like once a week, I hear every week, I couldn't get somebody to edit my show because the way I edit is special.
No, yeah, I learned early that that's not the case. Like, you can absolutely teach someone to edit something the way you want it to be edited.
I used to be very like, I don't know, delicate about that. Like, well, maybe if you, and these days I've hit a point where I'm just like, no, it's not. You're not special. Your editing is, you might do things differently, but somebody could come along and copy you. Yeah. You're not so special that you're uncopyable. Like be honest. Are you such a 1 in a billion genius that no one could ever edit a video like you? And the thing that really makes your channel special is how great you are at editing. None of the other things matter. It's just the editing is what makes you great. You couldn't hand that off and focus on the writing. Like okay, I guess maybe, or, and I'm just throwing this out there, maybe your audience doesn't care. Maybe nobody else but you notices how genius your editing is, and they just like your face or the sound of your voice or the words you say. And focusing on face, voice, and words you say might be a better investment of your time than the thing that I swear to God nobody fucking notices. I was Patch, my friend Patch from Tierzoo, for years. I was trying to convince him to hire an editor. God, he's gonna be mad at me for telling this. He finally was convinced when it was pointed out to him that doesn't mean you have to give up editing. It just means that like you can get twice as many videos out. And he's like, oh, all right. And so he did. In the first video, he released that his new editor. He had spent a while training the editor up. The first video that he put out that they had edited, like, a bunch of the comments were like, wow, this is a serious editing upgrade. Like, this is so great. I love the editing in this video. His mom texted him to say, the new video is so well edited. What did you do? She didn't know that he had hired somebody. And he's like, all right, bro, all right. You're right.
You made your point. I love that. That's so fun.
Okay, universe. I mean, it's an easy I told you so, because the I told you so results in him doing less work and making more money. So like, who's the real loser here? Right, nobody. That's the best. That's the fun part. But yeah, the first thing I tell creators to do is go hire an editor, because your life is going to become easier and better. And there is absolutely no wrong answer to the question of, would you rather be the creator focusing on creating, or would you rather be the editor who's enabling that? There is no wrong answer there. As somebody who, I am mostly behind the scenes, I am mostly the enabler. I know that the way I ask the question, it presupposes, or it suggests a presupposition that there is a clear right answer. I really don't think there is. I just think it's an interesting question, and hearing the way people think through their answer is always very insightful for me.
Yeah, no, I agree too. And no one's ever asked me that, so I appreciate you asking. It's my favorite thing. I've said this on the show before, but I love when guests ask me questions, because it doesn't happen often. And so I always appreciate it when it does.
Why do you think that is?
Okay, all right, enough. Come on. I don't need you stealing my job, all right? I like this job. No, Dave, thank you so much for joining me. This was so much fun. I am in awe of not only what you've done with Nebula and with Standard, but also just how cool it is to see you on the big screen. You are a delightful human. I'm so glad to have gotten to meet you and to do this. Before we wrap up, and before I have you sign off the show, I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you online if you wish to be found, and plug all the things that you want them to go check out.
Let's see. Well, nebula.app, or watchnebula.com. They'll both take you to the same place. You can find me on Twitter at Wiskus, DWISKUS. I guess Instagram and the other things. I didn't mention this in all of this, but I'm also a musician, and I was trying really hard to just do that for a living before this whole like Standard thing took off and sucked my soul out. If you want to hear the stuff the band's called Airplane Mode, airplanemode.com, or at Airplane Mode on the social things. We put out a record right before COVID, which was such a great time to release a record. We got to play exactly 0 shows to promote that. But airplanemode.com will take you to our YouTube channel. There's some videos up there. We're on Spotify and all those things. I tried to convince Patrick to put one of our songs in the movie, but alas, didn't work out. But yeah, those are the places you'd find me, I guess. Mostly on, if I'm engaging in something, it's probably Twitter. Although I have a rule about not reading tweets, so if you tweet at me and I don't respond, Twitter for me, it's a write only medium.
That's a legit way to use that platform, and I get it.
It's not a rule I can stick to all the time. I do read the tweets, even though I know that I shouldn't read the tweets. But every time I see something, I'm like, what the fuck is that guy? You know what? That's on me. I broke rule 1. Not his fault. That's on me. All right. That's me.
I get it.
That's where you can find me. Twitter and Nebula.
Well, I'm definitely going to check out Airplane Mode because I'm a big music nerd. I had a music podcast before I had any other podcast, so I'm definitely going to check out Airplane Mode now. I'm excited for that. And you'll have to come back to just talk about music next time because I'm a big music nerd too. But the last thing I'll have you do is actually born out of my now on indefinite hiatus music podcast, which I say that way because that way I don't have to admit that it's ended.
I feel that way about my podcast.
Right? It'll
come back someday.
Someday. The previous episode before this one was with my 2 co-hosts from that podcast because I hadn't spoken to them a lot lately. We're friends, but we just hadn't talked on mic in a while. So that was the 200th episode. And of course, in that episode said, what if we brought it back and we did this? So who knows? But the saying from that show is music is life and life is good. It's this idea that even when things get really hard, tough, overbearing, if you're a creator and you're creating, if you're making something, if you're doing something that's passionate to you, life will still go on. Life will be good. And so if you could say music is life and life is good, we will close the show.
Music is life and life is good.
That's it for this episode of CPOV Autographs. Our theme music is by Michael Kill. Our logo was designed by Case Aiken and Joey Amons. If you liked the show, please rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. It's a great way to help us reach more listeners. Questions, comments, or guest recommendations? Email mr.matt.storm@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at CPOV Autographs. Thank you so much for listening.
Hey there, Screen Beans. Have you heard about Screen Snark?
Rachel, this is an ad break. They aren't screen beans until they listen to the show.
Fine. Potential Screen Beans. You like movies and TV shows, right?
I mean, who doesn't? Screen Snark is a casual conversation about the movies and television shows that are shaping us as we live our everyday lives.
That's right, Matt. We have a chat with at least one incredible guest every episode, hailing from all walks. We've interviewed chefs,
writers, costumers, musicians,
yoga teachers, comedians, burlesque dancers,
folks in the film and TV industry,
and more.
We'd be delighted for you to join us every other Monday on the Certain POV Podcast Network.
Or wherever you get your podcasts, fresh and tasty off the presses.
What? That's not...
Can I call them Screen Beans now?
Fine.
Screen Beans!
So tune in and we'll see you at the movies or on a couch somewhere.
'Cause you're all Screen Beans now.
She will be mine.
CPOV. CertainPOV.com.